Good afternoon, and welcome to our day of remembrance, where we take time today to reflect the loss of our loved ones and special bond that we held with them. I'm Kevin Dambinski, and I'm one of the funeral directors here on staff at Klein and Hansen, Booker and Motor Funeral Homes. Also an ordained United Methodist minister, offering gifts of leading funeral memorial services as officiant, and also recently a pet funeral director. Other staff members include funeral director and owner Kent Rush, funeral director Logan Rush, funeral director David Rush, funeral director Peter Maish, office manager Polly Fitzgerald, office assistants Jennifer Lonsline, advanced funeral planner Lisa Brennan, and cleaning and maintenance Tammy Van Stratton. And probably we also need to include our most popular staff member, Aspen. Together as a team, we are privileged to guide you and your families through these moments of loss and grief. We hope that today the words offered will bring you comfort and peace. So at this time we have our first song of reflection. December is known to be the season of darkness, not only because nights are the longest, darkness covers our neighborhood in late afternoon, and gray skies are common for this season. December can be a dark season for many because of preparing to gather for the holidays for the first time without our loved ones we have lost this year and in years past. It might have been 11 months or just yesterday when you lost your loved one. The loss is real, the pain is real. In this journey of grief, there are thousands of emotions that you might be feeling all at the same time. Whatever it is that you are feeling, it is okay. As a pastor, I always have told people, as long as you are not thinking of hurting yourself or others, you are allowed to embrace your feelings and sit with them and process through them. I'm not a roller coaster fan, but one of the best illustrations I can use in grief support is the image of the roller coaster. There will always be days where life is great, the ride of life is thrilling, you're having a good day. You might even find celebrations to live into. There are moments of the great dive downward, though, and the quick spin out of control. It might feel like not wanting to get out of bed or staying in your pajamas all day, listening to a certain song and shedding tears. It's the shock of the loss. Grief has its grip on you, but please know that this dip will not last forever. If you're familiar with the 23rd Psalm, there's a line that says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." It is the darkest line of the psalm, but we know we do not wish to be in any valley, let alone the shadows of death. But I can remember years ago reading that if there is to be a shadow, even in darkest valleys, if there is a shadow, there must be light somewhere in order to get the shadow. So don't forget that even in shadows of death, the sun is shining with you, never leaving us alone. In grief, we are embraced and comforted, I believe, by the great shepherd. As we sit in darkness of our soul, we recognize that the light is still among us. So now we take time to reflect in the lighting of our candles of hope. The first candle we light is a candle in memory of those who gave us birth, who nurtured us, offered love, and cherished us. We remember mothers and fathers, guardians and grandparents, and all our family through the ages. We light a candle in memory of those who have been joined to us in the greater circle of life. We remember sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles and cousins, those near to us and those far away. We light a candle in memory of those who have left us before we expected, those we hold dear, and with those whom we still walk in our dreams. We remember children and grandchildren, those who leaped within the womb and who danced upon the earth. We light a candle in memory of those whom we came to know through the eyes of love. We hold sacred the faces and memories of years past, of those who brightened our days and lit up our lives. We remember husbands and wives, dearest loved ones and closest friends who changed our lives forever. We light a candle in memory of those who shared our lives in many ways, who worked with us and made our lives more enjoyable. We remember friends and neighbors. We light a candle for those we do not know, who like us have suffered loss, who live with grief, who long for peace and justice, who long for friendship and healing. We remember these people at every time and every place. And finally, we leave one candle unlit, mindful of the great truth of this life, that in the fullness of time, we too will join our loved ones in the realm without any sorrow or any more pain, in the company of unending love. For all of these people, near and far, we give thanks for life and hope and courage. We reflect in another song of reflection. This afternoon we pause and remember. We take one day at a time, and sometimes we even take 1 hour, 1 minute at a time. From Alan Wolfelt's book, Grief One Day at a Time, he reminds us, we have come to know the consequences of loving. We have loved and lost, and so now we must grieve. And yet, even in our moments of deepest pain, we harbor a profound knowing. It was all worth it. Without a doubt, we would do it all over again. Of course we would. The love we were privileged to experience is the only thing that prevents the heaviness of our grief from crushing us. It is both the cause and the cure, the problem and the solution. It is love that will sustain us and ultimately renew us. He later continues by explaining how we can walk through this grief in the power of love. He says to live in grief is to reach out to others, to talk about our thoughts and feelings, to sob, to journal, to express. To use our grieving time is to mourn actively, openly and fully. What I appreciate about this is that we're not meant to walk alone in our grief. Do not be afraid to reach out to others when you need someone to listen. Do not feel bad or guilty about reaching out to others because you don't want to be left alone. I think society has taught us how to poorly grieve. Have you noticed that whenever death occurs on a TV show, the funeral might be shown briefly, a tear shed, and possibility of time lapse mentioned on the bottom of the screen, and just like that, grief is over. The person has moved on back to work with family, other loved ones, never to mention their lost loved one ever again. Well, it would be nice for life to be like that. It was before the death of our loved one. The reality is our world and our own lives become forever different and changed. Well, this is part of life. We must never stop speaking about our lost loved one's life, their character, the memories, the stories, the years of life. For whatever amount of time while they lived among us, our lives were impacted, influenced, shaped, and molded by their life. So don't stop telling the stories or saying their name, as hard as it might be. Soon you will realize that the tears of grief give way into the stories and tears of comfort that will hold you in times of need. Henry Nouwen once shared, if you want to avoid the suffering of leaving, you will never experience the joy of loving. And love is stronger than fear, life stronger than death, hope stronger than despair. We must have the trust that the risk of loving is always worth taking. Again, Dr. Wolfelt writes, grief is often a one step forward, 2 steps back kind of journey. It's also going in a circle of sometimes getting lost in the journey. And it's frustrating. But like all of life, this is how it is. We can choose to be optimists or pessimists in grief. Optimists find ways to foster hope for the future and trust that the journey, no matter how challenging, it's taking towards healing. We still experience pain. We still get lost, angry, and depressed. But even in the midst of our necessary suffering, we try very hard to nurture the knowing that our lives can and will continue with meaning and love. The next time we take a step, or 2 or 3 or 57 backwards, we remember that grief is like a dance. And if we only keep dancing, we're doing what we need to do. Here's some words of support of some ideas of what we can do in this season. Knowledge that death is painful. It's an ongoing task that we accomplish in doses over time. A vital part of our healing in grief is called telling the story, over and over again. Telling the story means relating the circumstances surrounding the death, which is what we do at a visitation sometimes. We recount what led up to that moment. We retell the story to others to bring healing to us. Of course, we also share the memories, whether they're good or bad, and we find people who are willing to take the time to listen, to tell our story and their story over and over again. And we look to do that where we are not judged by how they lived. The grief we feel during the holidays is a wise teacher. Grief teaches us that living fully after someone you love dies starts, in part, by realizing and acknowledging that pain continues. Grief teaches you that feelings of sadness and loss are not enemies to be fought, but friends to be understood. Grief teaches us that loving and caring for others are our most important needs here on earth. Grief teaches us to simplify life and let people know each and every day how much we love them. Grief teaches us to slow down, to enjoy every moment, to find hidden treasures everywhere. Grief teaches you to honor the need to openly mourn the loss of those you love deep in your soul. And I always say, it's common actually, look for signs of light in this season of darkness. Whether it's in the cardinal that's on your ornament that you take home and you place it in an important place, we believe that wherever there's a cardinal, that's our loved one saying hello. Watch for the cardinals. Watch for glimpses of life and light. Whether it's maybe a smell of our loved one's perfume or cologne, watching somebody walk by that looks like our loved one, maybe sounds like our loved one. Maybe we remember a story in hearing another person's story. Our loved ones, though they are gone now, they show glimpses they are still with us, that we carry forever. May we all be blessed in this reflection in our hearts to find healing, that our bodies may find strength, our souls find hope, that we live into the words of not goodbye, but see you later. And so as we prepare to hear these names of those we have lost, I'd actually like Billy to kind of, you said it so well in church this morning, to kind of give us your thoughts on this piece.
Sure. I wrote the reflection you're about to hear, which is named Whispers Through the Veil, and it's based off of a man that lost his wife after a long battle with cancer. And he says it in such that there's a veil, an ever-thin veil of energy that's in between us here and the people that have left us. And in birth and in death, that veil is so close you could almost touch that person. So what you're about to hear is a piece that we've only done once before, and it is that whisper, that person talking to you through the veil. Feel good.
Kathleen Steinbach, Joan Doctor, Kenneth Menting, Michael Tottenhagen, Marion Hoyman, Kim Vandenbogard, Leroy Strawn, Carmen Merkis, Cindy Thorne, Joseph Van Straten, Charlotte Scott, Sue Henrik, Randy Ross, Dennis Conan Sr., Beverly Meyer, Albert Meyer, Linda Broliard, Ione Ziegler, Bruce Steinecker, Ione Much, Jerome Dorn, Dorothy Lowenstein, Pauline Morrissey, Juan Sanchez, Audrey Conrad, Audrey Dyermeyer, Rita Jansen, James McKellips, Peter Davis, Nathan Kringle, Thomas Lathrop, William Ritchie, Fred Hubner, Marion Reel, Randall Van Straten, Carolyn Lobbs, Linda Ritchie, Donald Fowle, Robert Blom, Elna Carter, Pamela Stager, Richard Stoss, Donna Pingle, Niles Kettner, Donald Scott, Virginia Jarko, Dwayne Ritchie, Angeline Janikowski, Marie Hess, Christine Van Straten, Helen Boyle, Wilbur Fields, Daniel Wachinski, Mary Hansen, Michael Petit, William Bishop Sr., Arlie Strebe, Susan Lolazern, Francis Arts, Mercedes Sullivan, Justin Werner, Marion Sanders, Alice Lawton, Ramona Gala Colasso, Prudence Fletcher, Ronald Jansen, Scott Gorgas, William Pazin, Thomas Flanagan, Lynn Carey, Lyle Brum, Louis Heimbrook, Sandra Krieger, Leland Hubner, Lois Mathewson, Teresa Spatz, Rowan Elridge, Barbara Gasson, Tony Princeton, James Lehman, Edward Bendixson, Carlton Heidemann, Thomas Bonikowski, James Stylen, Diane Bolt, Marilyn Dorn, Clifford Roman, Ronald Hord, Elizabeth Kent, Marlon Brown, Lucille Lienhard, Anne Banky, Bonita Lohowiak, Keith Fisher, Darlene Wheeler, Pamela Guru, Joseph Amador, Dennis Vandenberg, Garrett Woods Jr., Irvin Wepner, Dolores Simmons, Norbert Gossens, Phyllis Laughlin, Robert Poppy, Levon Wagner, Terrence Ritchie, Terrence McPeak, Jane Jonas, Joshua Deminuick, Donald Fisher, Lorraine Latza, Joanna Hart, Garrett Lawlazerne, Pamela Bolt, Gerald Lienhard, Keith Weber, Robert Rienbauer, Gwendolyn Buren, Joan Mueller, Donna Bulow, Mary Pagel, Gordon Blink, Michael Furmanek, James Thomas, Dennis Mueller, Randolph Marsh, Christine Lesch, Kyle Krieger, Rosalind Rummel, Esther Kettner, Isolona von Ruden, Brittany Marg, David Morian, Sherry Crane, William Bushke, Cynthia Bartnick, Charles Thomas Jr., Faith Welke, Shirley Schwann, Jeanette Dahlman, Lorraine Annenson, John Fields, Sue Millard, Gregory Furmanek, Barbara Gruning, Ronald Meek, Scott Sockett, Paul Kahneman, Sarah Anderson, Betty Drath, Jan Vollmer, Joanne Kuppernes, Jean Gorman, Sean Retzloff, Eugene O'Brien, Robert Lawrence, Joyce Ernessy, Lawrence Sonny Richard Jr., David Borowski, Ronald Haynes, Eugene Bacarmo, Janice Swanson, Sandra Wolfgram, Cody Emmel, Mary Roloff, Thomas Heisey, Philip Kraft, Jamie Netcoven, Mary Gordon, Hollingsworth Ellenson, Stanley Donche, Eunice Lehman, Dawn McConnell, Philip Amador, Brock Wagner, Barbara Prohl, Joan Bonikowski, Emil Colby, Stephen Schmidt, Marion Motor, Elizabeth Moravik, Lon Kringle, George Hain, Carol Werner, Thomas Thurber, Dylan Erb, Susan May, Gary Talladay, Anton Politek, Cody Crabb, Judith Gorgas, Shirley Malliott, Nancy Gretzinger, James Iafaladano, Joseph Barnes, Donna Fox, Verna Reel, Roger Steinberg, Jeanette Pankow, Louis Gillane, John Canavet, Mary Gunther, Lois Klicka, Shirley Schronrock, Delton Jeffers, Ronald Matthias, Patrick Quinn, Lois Zimpel, Dale Besaw, Elizabeth Beckett, Danny Blackel, Mary Finsky, Todd Phillips, Thomas Wheeler, Linda Amador, Shirley Philippon, John Milkey, Waldine Delsler, Deborah Radmer, Sean Cargis, Lorraine Kettner, Dolores Dean, Liliana Kickerer, Joan Allender. And we also remember 65 families who have lost their pets. We hold all of these in our hearts this day. prepare for the conclusion of this day of remembrance, you're all invited to stay for cookies and coffee and fellowship and remembering and telling stories of our loved ones. Receive this blessing. O God, sorrows old and new envelop us as we grieve this new reality. Funerals share jokes and fresh tears, and graveside prayers to place flowers for those long departed. Give us comfort that is bigger than all of this and love that is stronger than all of this. Blessed are we who hold in our hearts our loved family and friends we have lost, those we have loved so hard and endured so much, whose earthly story has now been told. O God, you alone know the whole of it. You know their sufferings, their joys, their hopes, their winding paths and every movement of their soul, and ours too, as our lives touched. Blessed are we who grieve it all, the missteps and mischances. Take all our regrets into your great heart of love and bear it away into the winds of healing. Restore our souls even as you receive theirs, and welcome them into the heavenly reality where the old has gone, the new has come, where there is no more death or sorrow or crying or pain, but fullness of peace and unimaginable joy. Beloved, God, the Spirit, our loved ones are holding us in life, in death. We are loved. We go into the peace and comfort and hope of never forgetting, but always remembering. Take care.